Thank you so much, Teresa. Gosh, what a beautiful introduction. Oh my gosh, I'm so honored that you asked me to talk for this workshop. You know, you're one of those winners, and yeah, I'm happy to see some of my girls on here and friends, and just welcome everybody. I want to welcome the new people. I also want to welcome people that are have a lot of time. And if you're carrying secrets, if you started doing something you know you shouldn't, or you stopped doing something you know you should be doing, this reach out and talk to somebody. This is the deal. We don't want to lose you 20, 30, 40 years. We don't want to lose you. And we can't stay sober on yesterday's sobriety. So I just always throw that out there because I had time. I had almost 3 years once, and I had almost 2 years once, and almost 3 years once. But then I've seen beautiful, beautiful souls go back out even with 40 years. So it's wild. It's and that's not to scare the new people. Like I said, they either started doing something or stopped doing something, and that's what we do. And so my name is Hilary Roberts. I am an alcoholic. I've been sober since May 9th of 1997, and I'm very grateful for that. My sponsor is Polly P. She has a sponsor. My home group is the Pacific Group in Los Angeles, California. I travel between Dallas and LA. When COVID's not going on, I go to the Chicago group on Wednesday nights in Dallas, Texas. And then when I'm in LA, I'm at the Pacific group. So super grateful to be here. You know, I chose this reading. I was thinking about how I always felt like I didn't belong anywhere. And it started very, very young. And when I, I came into AA when I was 15, and I memorized all the words, and I could spout off a bunch of good stuff, but I couldn't stay sober. And the thing was, until I got a sponsor that told me to read the big book and the 12 and 12 with my heart and not my mind, then I had a chance. She said, how am I like this? How does this relate to me? She said, I want you to get it into your spirit, get it into your heart. And so then as we study this literature, as we study these textbooks for life, what happens is it really gets in there and starts working a magic. You know, there's sentences, you'll hear old timers talk about it, or elder statesmen, whatever, people with a lot of time, and they'll say, oh my gosh, I never read that before. Because it's a constant process of growing. I'm going to just read the paragraph that this comes from for the people that aren't familiar with it, and hopefully it'll refresh some of the people that are familiar with it. Perhaps one of the greatest rewards of meditation and prayer is the sense of belonging that comes to us. We no longer live in a completely hostile world. We are no longer lost and frightened and purposeless. The moment we catch even a glimpse of God's will, the moment we begin to see truth, justice, and love as the real and eternal things in life, we are no longer deeply disturbed by all the seeming evidence to the contrary that surrounds us in purely human affairs. We know that God lovingly watches over us. We know that when we turn to Him, all will be well with us, here and hereafter. Now, this past year of everything that this world's been going through, this paragraph is so good. It's good for us at any time because, you know, I think about the pandemic and how people said they couldn't leave the house. Well, heck, when I was drinking and drugging, I couldn't leave the house at all anyway. I couldn't leave the closet or the bathroom, you know. I mean, I was in my own quarantine. The only time I leave is to go get more booze or drugs, or go manipulate a way to get more booze and drugs. I'll say a little bit of my story. I mean, this whole thing about the God thing is really my story. All I can tell you is that I haven't listened to this workshop before, so I kind of don't know where to start. But I'm just gonna start with what I know. And what I know is that my experiences that I grew up in may not be the same as your experience. Like, my sponsor never had any of the stuff happen to her that happened to me. Her parents never divorced. None of that stuff happened. And all the things that I went through. She was cherished. She was loved. She became alcoholic. And for a long time, I thought if you had the childhood I had, if you had the parents I had, you would drink like I do. And that's just not the case. What happens is I take the drink takes me, and I end up in places where I don't want to be, with people I don't want to be with, doing things I never in the world thought I'd end up doing. And I do that over and over and over again until I can have a complete psychic change that's outlined in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous through the 12 steps. And because I can't stop, because in between those drinks, I emerge remorseful. And then what happens is that I start having these old ideas. Maybe I can have one. Maybe I can have two. You know what? I won't have more than three. You know what? I'm not going to have Mad Dog this time. I'm going to have something really classy like Cold Duck. Actually, I might even start with a little champagne. I'm going to do it high class, maybe some red wine. And there I go. And I end up in the places doing the things that I would do. And it just was, it was over and over and over again. And I almost died over and over and over again. I can tell you that for me, my story is that I was sexually tortured and abused starting at age 3 by different perpetrators. Um, I really didn't believe there was a God. Then when I was 12 or 13, I started to get to know this kind of God. My dad was atheist, and he got in my face and said, you know, who are you to believe there's a God? And then I was abused again within the church, and then I gave up on God again. And see, I believed God existed. I just believed that he was a maniacal, evil, God that was like, a little like I'm his marionette doll that he was going to do evil things with. And that's what I felt like, and I took my first drink when I was 14 and a half. I was really smart growing up, but all the chaos and drama that I grew up in turned into just where I couldn't handle the world anymore. And when I was 14 and a half, I was repeating the 8th grade. These big girls brought out a bottle of tequila, and they said, hey girl, you want to try some of this? And more than anything, I wanted to be accepted because I did not have that sense of belonging. I did not have that sense of belonging. And so, I'm drinking it. I take that first shot. I'm going to be cool. And I'm coughing. They're laughing at me. I got to laugh. I got to be cool. And you go down 8, 9 shots later. And this girl that was so insecure about her red hair and her freckles and her pale skin, this girl that even though she was given a voice at age 10 after seeing the play Annie, and would get just about every part that she auditioned for, but she did it because she couldn't stand her own name. She couldn't stand who she was, and she would sing so she could escape who she thought she was as a bad person. I always thought I was bad. I always thought that I wasn't worthy. And so when I got on that stage, I could be somebody else, and I could be somebody, because me was never good enough. Me was never good enough. And so there I am. And I remember I had this brain before I took those drinks that wouldn't shut up. It's like that neighbor that's upstairs with the loud music that you can't stand. And you're like, tell them to be quiet. You're knocking on the door, and they just crank it even louder. And it's just all these voices. I know what you're thinking about me, and it's not good. And I know what I think about me, and it's not good. And oh my gosh, what did I do to make that abuse happen? And why is dad going to flip out again on me tonight? And is mom going to leave again? Because mom left for several years. And was she going to leave me again? And was I adopted? And I wasn't adopted, but I thought I was. And then I had a cannon-sized blast of anxiety, where I'm just, I just never a sense of calm. And I took those drinks, and 8, 9 shots later, my brain gets quiet. 8, 9 shots later, that cannon blast in my gut seals up and becomes warm. And I remember I have this warm feeling, and I'm like, you know what? These girls are really smart to invite me to their little shindig. And secondly, I'm really kind of cute. I kind of look like Anne Margaret or Maureen O'Hara. I used to watch those old movies. I loved it. My whole thing was I was going to marry one guy, like my grandparents got married. He's going to marry one guy, have kids, have grandkids, and then have us die on the same day. That was my dream. And I always thought my life could be a Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers movie, or, one of those old romantic movies. And that's what I wanted. And, my best thinking and my best drinking got me at 16 years old, pimped out on the street, almost dying over and over again. And 2 months later, I ended up, he beat up his favorite girl. They had conned and manipulated me out of town, and said they presented it as something totally different than what it turned out to be. It was supposed to be something that was going to be great for my career. And I was scared to leave because I knew where my mom lived. He beat her to a pulp. He wouldn't let her go to the hospital, and he was always worried about me being underage. And I told him the FBI and my parents were looking for me, which wasn't true. And he let me go home. He said, go home, go home. You don't need to be here anymore. And I can tell you, I believe I would be dead right now, not from alcohol, but from one of those people on the street. And anyway, but so now that I've done that, now, not only was I unworthy and unlovable and a piece of garbage before, now I'm totally a piece of trash and scum and nothing but a carcass to be used. Because now, who will love me after I've done that? Who's going to love a girl like me? Who's going to want to be friends with me? I'm dirty, I'm disgusting, and it's like I have an A on me, and worse than an A. And the shame was overwhelming, and the only way to get away from the shame and the pain was to continue to drink, to add more things to it, stuff that would keep me up for days, and take me to other places but I could drink for longer periods of time. So when I finally got to you, like I said, I came in and out. It's too much to get into, but when I finally came to you, I had lost my singing voice. I had ruined not one, not two, not three, but 4 major record deals, because you can offer me the love of my life on a silver platter. You can offer me the career of my dreams. You can offer me the self-respect, which I really never knew what that was, the respect of my community. I really didn't know what that meant. The respect of my family, I didn't know what that meant. But you can offer me everything I think I want, and I'll pass it all for a drink. And it's always at the worst time. And that's the kind of alcoholic I became. And it's just kind of like I was a basketball bouncing on the bottom of what they call the bottom. And there was no lower to go except for getting locked up for life, going totally crazy, or dying. And those old timers with like one tooth in their mouth, with 5 billion years sober, they'd be like, darling, if you don't go crazy and you don't die and you don't get locked up, we're going to get you. Happy as a lark too, man. It's like, and I'm looking at them like they're crazy. So, and I'm going to do everything but take the steps. And that's why I kept going in and out. The other thing I would do is pretend like everything was just fine. You guys had asked me how I was doing. Oh, I'm great. Just got out of the hospital after almost dying from overdosing and drinking too much. Just got out of the hospital from getting a hole in my lung. I mean, because I'm doing all those smoking repetitive. I'm just crazy town over and over and over. But I'm going to pretend. So the difference was this time that I came to you, I'd lost my singing voice. And I was 12-step out of a strip club by another stripper who actually had gotten our program. And I was, it takes a miracle of God to get me out of that place. But I remember I used to tell her to control her drinking. And then there she was. She had 6 months sober and working in that place. And I'm like, how are you sober, girl? And she said, well, on page 100 of my big book, it says if I have a good business reason to be here, which I do, I'm here to make money. And I was shocked but interested, So but then we started going to meetings, I could hear her. And we started going to meetings, and I just, I started going to these meetings. She invited me down to Texas. You don't have to change cities for this to happen, but I was going to meetings with her. And I made a decision that I am not going to pretend that everything's okay anymore. There I was, 93 pounds, sunken in cheeks, kind of a greenish tinge to my skin. I'd been in the mirror picking the heck out of my skin over and over. It was not a pretty sight. Wearing clothes you could see through. Getting up 4, 5, 6 times during the meeting. You know us. And I started interviewing sponsors, and I got a sponsor that would not be interviewed. But anyway, so I'm going to the meetings. I made a decision, and I told everybody, I always had a burning desire. At every discussion meeting, I had a burning desire, and I would tell them, I hate you, I hate God, I hate me, and I hate AA, and I don't want to hear about it after the meeting. And they'd be like, keep coming back. And I'd be like, two fingers in the air. Eh. And I remember they would try to hold my hand for the prayer, and I'd be like, get your blankety blank hands off me. That thing doesn't give a blankety blank about me. All right. Well, you want to go to lunch? And I'd be like, y'all confused me, because as mean as I was, which of course I'm like the Skeletor in the corner, right? But as mean as I was, you guys were just like, okay, well, we're going over here for lunch if you want to come. And then I started slowly opening up, and I remember some, you guys are wild. You guys just don't care. You guys would be like, hey, Hilary, just come with us. You know what? We'll buy your lunch. And I didn't want to be accountable to anybody, because then you owe somebody something, you know. And you guys, I'd be like, no, I don't want to owe anybody anything. And you guys be like, no, you just pay it forward later. I'm like, I don't want to owe anybody anything. Come on, let me just put something, you know. And you guys would just talk me into it. Y'all just like worked me. You worked this. um, so I got this sponsor. And my sponsor, of course, I knew I was powerless over alcohol. I knew all that. My sponsor said, you're going to take the steps 1 through 12. You've never finished the steps. You've always stopped at 4 and 8. Because they said I had to make amends to my dad. And I said, I will never make amends. He didn't believe the abuse when I told him that these people were abusing me. Well, that was just one of them. And then he, kicked me out of the house in the snow with no shoes on. I'm like, he took money that my grandfather left me. It's just all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm never doing that. And that's how my feelings were until I got my sponsor. And I still had those feelings, but I was willing to listen to her more or less. She says, you're going to take these steps 1 through 12. You're going to call me every single day. You're going to call 3 women every single day. You're going to go to the meeting after the meeting every single day. And you're going to go to 1, 2, 3 meetings a day. Or more if need be. You're going to pick up the phone before you go take a drink, because I was famous for calling remorseful after the drink. She told me, I want you to get on your knees and pray to the God of your misunderstanding and ask it to keep you sober and thank it at night. And I'm like, do I have to call it God? She said, no, I don't care what you call it. So I called him MFSOB. We got into my steps. And my sponsor told me, she says, okay, I want you to write your powerless and unmanageability. That was easy. I knew that. And then, of course, you heard for my second step, she had me reading the big book. Well, she had me reading the book anyway, the big book for all of the steps. And she had me reading 2 paragraphs at a time with my heart, not my mind. And because that was all I could probably handle. And I had to get a dictionary from 1935. And so to look up all the definitions. I had listened to Joe and Charlie tapes. I mean, I knew my book. I just couldn't stay sober. I knew it here. But so the second step, you know what my concept of God was. We go to the third step. She said, okay, if you could pick any God, what would it be? I said, well, I'm not picking a light bulb or a doorknob like they talk about. I mean, I thought that was always so ridiculous. She said, okay, well, what would it look like? And I said, okay, sponsor, because I'm not people pleasing anymore. I'm not trying to get you to like me. I'm upset. I can't figure out why I can't stay sober. This is crazy. And I'm angry about it. I'm angry where my life has gone. I'm scared I'm never going to sing again. They told me they didn't know if I was. I felt like such a loser. And I mean, I'm like, what is there to lose? What is there to lose? Why am I going to pretend to be happy for you people? So I told her I want the big book talks about I'm going to feel the nearness of my creator. I want to feel the nearness of my creator. I want to laugh from my gut. I want to know what it's like to sit in a meeting and not be disgusted with the topic gratitude while you guys all laugh. I want to get what that is. And even more than that, I can't stand the topic acceptance. And I don't want to rip my hair out listening to these topics. I want to feel like I have the secret to life. I want to feel like I'm not below everybody. I want to be able to take a shower, one shower, and feel clean instead of taking 20 showers and I can never feel clean from the inside out. I want to know what it's like to be able to look in the mirror, put my makeup on without being just totally disgusted by the sight I see in the mirror, and and not feel like such a piece of trash. I want to know what it's like to feel my innocence. I want to know what that is. I want to know what it's like to hear the birds singing, to see the butterflies, to be so excited about the little things in life. What is that like? She said, that is what I'm talking about. That's a third step. And so then she, that always messes me up just thinking about it. Um, then she had me get right to business. We did that third step prayer and she held my hand and we were on our knees and I just didn't want it. It was so uncomfortable. The other thing she did is put her arm around me in the meetings and I was always like cringing because, you know, I didn't want anybody touching me. I felt so gross about myself. And she always gave me so much love and I didn't understand it. And the women, you guys, I'd wear the most ridiculous outfits and you guys would just like invite me to your houses and you would love me in spite of my freaking booty shorts and all the weird stuff I'd wear. and anyway, she had me start writing that inventory. And it was, you know, I had to write down everything and I had to write a prayer at the top of every page. And that's the way my sponsor did it. And I had to get all my resentments out and then I had to do my part. And she told me, she says, Hilary, I don't want you to get so angry that you go back out and drink. And I don't want you to despise them or you. You're just going to write the facts. Step outside, write the facts. And that's what I had to do. So I had to write the facts. This is what it is. And I had to ask her questions and I'd go up to the AA club and you can't do that right now, new people, but you can get people, you know, where you can say, hey, can I call you in an hour after I'm done writing and I'll take a little coffee break with you? You can do that right now while you're doing writing. And if you get a community of people that you're calling, you can do that and just check in with people every 30 minutes, every hour, every 15 minutes, whatever it takes. If you're feeling like drinking, call people, pick up that phone like it's like you're taking a breath, you know? And so then I remember writing out the fears and then we had to write out this, me, and then I had to write out the sex inventory, which was really, really hard because I didn't remember all the names, you know, and the pain and the shame there. And I had to really step outside. And I really remember crying my way through that with my sponsor. And I remember, I would, I'd put some makeup on to go to the meeting. And I remember also I was starting to dress better and I bought some stuff at the secondhand store and I looked nice and I felt like my insides didn't match the nice clothes and I would start crying and she would tell me, she would have to walk me through, like turn on the shower, call me when you get out of the shower, brush your teeth, you know, put on your makeup now. Okay, you felt pretty in this before, so I want you to put it on and you're going to meet me at the meeting. And so, you know, it was that kind of thing, you know, because of all the shame and feeling so disgusting about myself. And so I wrapped up that writing and, you know, I got a big bag of M&Ms and we did 5 hours of fifth step because it was my first one, you know, and as we're talking, you know, she says, honey, you are not to blame for what happened to you. But I will tell you that you're not going to like what I tell you, which is you're going to have to pray for those abusers. And, and so we went through everything. Now, at the end of my fifth step, at the end, there's more to that story, but I don't have enough time to tell you. But at the end of that fifth step, I didn't feel like the clouds parted and the birds started singing. But I'll tell you what I felt is that one person on this planet knew me. And every time I saw her at a meeting, I'd start crying because I felt like she knew me, she loved me. And she stood up for me too. There were several women that had an issue about where I was still working, which took a minute for me to let go of. And I don't have enough time to get into that right now, but she stood up for me. And she always told me, she says, if God doesn't want you in that job, you won't be in that job. She says, it's my job to take you through the steps people, you know, had you quit and go work at every other job. I'm not going to do that. You're not to drink no matter what. You're not to drug no matter what, commit suicide or homicide no matter what. And God will prune the rest out of you. And if it's his will. And so she, I felt like I had more belonging, that sense of belonging. And let me tell you what was starting to happen. And remember, I told you what I called him. In my step 3, I started writing in my journals, dear blank, because I'd write in my journals the dear MFSOB. Then in my third step, as my third step in the fourth step came, dear blank. That's what I could do. So we got to a better place. Then I go and I do my 6 and 7 at the house, and I look at my first 5 proposals, and I do all that stuff. And my sponsorship line, they write out who you're to make amends to. And I have to follow the exact instructions on what that looks like. And so I ended up making amends to my father, who added more to it. And I made amends to my mother for things I had stolen from her and paid her, and I rebought and paid back and did things, and made amends to my older brother and my little brother for putting him in predicaments and stuff. My little brother was 5 when he saw the cops come to the house, and just things like that. And so I'm starting to make these amends. And what's happening is, in step 7, when I'm writing out the assets and defects that my sponsor has me writing in 6 and 7, I start putting dear HP. And then as I'm making those amends, I'm starting to write in my journal, dear God. Getting closer here, getting closer. Then I started getting girls to ask me to sponsor them, and I started sponsoring women, and I started having to do 10 steps. And I had to start memorizing prayers, and I started, going to churches and doing stuff there. And I was still very confused about a lot of things. It was a very slow process for me. But as I was doing those amends, as I'm continuing in the steps, the more I'm making amends, the more I'm feeling like I can look the world in the eye. And our book talks about that. The more I'm feeling a sense of belonging, the more that I also started doing 12-step calls at 30 days sober before I ever took a step. And let me tell you something. It tells us in our literature, even the newest of newcomers will find joy in helping his fellow sufferer. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's so true. And let me tell you, there's not such a influx of treatment centers and detoxes that they don't still need us. We have tons of alcoholics that still need us. Now, mind you, we got to be safe about it with masks and taking people with us and all this other kind of stuff. But it's life-changing to do actual 12-step work. I made amends about 6 years ago. I was in Denver, Colorado, and my best friend's dad had molested me. And he was sent to court for molesting 3 12-year-old girls. And he got a year probation, and they sent my mother $2.99 restitution for harm done. 6 years ago, I'm back in Denver. I had drank over that situation for many, many years. And I drive up and I see the same car that used to be in front of this house, because we moved around a lot. I went to like 13 different schools by the time I was in 8th grade, and I was always inner city schools. I was always a minority there. I was always very envious of the beautiful African American women, the Latina women, the beautiful Asian women, all that smooth, exotic skin, the exotic look. Again, I didn't want to be anybody. I wanted to be anybody but me, right? And there's that car rusted out, and something's driving me to go up to the door, and I knock on the door, no answer. And I try to walk away, and I can't. I have to go back up the stairs, and I push the doorbell, and he comes out this other entrance. And I asked if she was there. I'm in my 40s. She would be too. I mean, why would she be living with her dad? He said, "Oh, she lives out of state." And he says, "Oh, by the way, what's your name?" And I said, "My name is Hilary." And he just dropped his head, and he said, "You must have hurt for many years for what I did to you." And he's shaking his head, and he had this disease where he couldn't grow hair on his body. And he's telling me what a piece of garbage he is and how awful he is. And I grabbed his hands and I said, "I forgive you." And he's going on and telling me what a piece of trash he is and how awful he is. And I hug him and I say, "God forgives you. And so do I." And let me tell you something. We talked for an hour. I told him about me being suicidal at different times, ending up on the street, all the stuff that happened to me. And he said, please don't ever kill yourself. He says, I'll pay for whatever therapy you'll need. We talked, and I found out what had happened is that they had kept an eye on him. They said if he messed up just a little for 20 years, that he was going back to prison for a very long time. I didn't know that. He lost custody of his daughter, who had finally reached out to him 4 years prior to me getting there. And I walked out of there and I called Polly, and Polly said, baby, you're free, aren't you? And I said, Polly, I'm free. And I want to tell you something. I want to tell you some other miracles that have happened. So I remember at a year and a half sober, my sponsor was telling me, my voice wasn't coming back and I was crying about it. My singing voice would not come back. And she said, why don't you ask God to bring your voice back if it's God's will? And I'm like, God, 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 God. Everything you say is God. And she goes, exactly. And of course, our deal was I didn't have to like what she said. I just got to do it. So I started asking, going, we please bring the voice back, and then within 3 months, I got more serious with the prayers. And within 3 months, my voice started coming back. And then I started singing. You guys started asking me to sing at your weddings. You started asking me to sing at your anniversaries, at your parents' funerals, your siblings' funerals. God bless your kids' funerals. Just different. And the public started asking me, and my life started changing. And I will tell you that one of the things that I had to do at 6 years sober is I had to go get outside help for the abuse that I endured. I was still having nightmares my first 6 years sober of being attacked. It was every single night my first 6 years sober. I've never heard of anybody having that problem, but I had that problem. And it was, it helped me a lot. I was able to get the whole story out in front of my dad and in front of the rest of the family, and it helped me. And I met Polly after that, and I had a little bit of acting out after that, and then I was able to cut ties with all of it. And Polly had told me, honey, I love you. I will never leave you, but I wish you could see you like I see you. And if you did, you wouldn't be able to do some of the things you do. And I have to tell you guys, this has been a whole journey of seeing what the value of who I am is. Our steps are about getting rid of who we're not. That outside help is about getting rid of who we're not. And I could not let myself off the hook. I even picked abusive relationships. I would got nice guys, but I would choose the ones that were verbally and physically and other ways abusive, even up until 3 years ago. And I've got 23 and a half years sober. And I'm telling you, because some of us are slow. Some of us, and I remember Polly being scared to death with the last two that I dealt with, because one of them was threatening to have me murdered. I mean, it was just awful. It was awful. And I would always choose the sickest guys. And, I had to go heal some more stuff in me, because what I realized is that I still had a core belief in me that what good man would love me, what good man would respect me after what I've done. And then I was told by my sponsor that it was arrogant of me to think I knew more than God, that if God is forgiving and loving and God is everything, who am I to think I know more than God? Wow. And I had to go do deeper step work with Polly. And we did that. And it was painful. And the withdrawal from that last toxic relationship was awful, because it triggered all this stuff for me. And I know that word's not in the book, but I'm just telling you what it did to me. But I was suicidal with double-digit sobriety. And our book talks about getting outside help. And let me tell you some of these miracles, man. You guys loved me and respected me before I could see what I was worth. Let me tell you about belonging. You included me when I felt so excluded within myself. You included me. Taking these steps in order and doing everything my sponsor directed, not always well, but doing that, it gave me new purpose and new meaning. An alcoholic wants to have purpose and meaning. Why do we do commitments and meaning? Because First of all, we have new people do it because the brains are so crazy. You guys need something to do. I know I did. I needed to clean it. Back in my day, we cleaned ashtrays and I did all kinds of stuff. Clean the bathroom. I'll clean the bathroom today. Give me a toothbrush. I'll clean the bathroom. I don't care because I love Alcoholics Anonymous. See, that's what happens is I take the steps. My life becomes an amazing miracle. I have 5 minutes. Thank you so much. My life becomes an amazing miracle. And then I want to give back all I can to this amazing program that has saved me. I want to tell you some of these gifts though. My father and I, who've had a tumultuous relationship, my father now calls me his hero. And he's my number one fan, he says. My brothers say I'm a miracle and I'm their hero. My mom lives in Dallas and it's not always easy. You know, I had a couple of slips with stuff and I finally had to realize I have to stop looking to my mom to get mommy stuff that she can never, could never, and will never give. I've had a lot of you step in and be moms to me, big sisters, safe men that have been stepped into a dad role. I've had so much love. Like Polly says, nobody's loved more than me. Polly says that all the time. I feel that nobody's loved more than me. And I finally had to let my mom off the hook. And she's here living with my stepdad who has dementia, and I get to do things and help take care of. And I do stuff for my dad and do stuff for my brothers. And my job is to be the best sister, the best daughter, the best friend, the best closed mouth sponsor that I can be. Let me tell you something that I've learned, because I had a sponsor that did tell all my business back before when I was going in and out, that for me as a sponsor, I don't take it lightly. No matter what, I need to make sure that I am careful with my girls, that I'm a closed mouth, understanding friend, that I guide them and do my best for them with love, compassion, and firmness at times. And I have a responsibility because those are little lives in my little hearts that God has bestowed to me. So let me tell you that 11th step, I'm seeking those prayers, I'm doing this stuff. And then I started writing that Dear Heavenly Father. And let me tell you some miracles that have come true for me. I look in the mirror and I see a girl, I see a woman today, a happy woman, a joyful woman most of the time. And I say, because I have certain trials and low spots that come along, but I have an unshakable foundation for life. That's in our 12 and 12 in the 11th step too. So I have an unshakable foundation for life. I look in the mirror and I see the precious daughter of a most merciful God that was so broken and hurt and did the best she could. And I forgive her. I love her. And I think she's absolutely precious and lovable just the way she is. I take a shower and baby, I feel clean from the inside before I even step in that thing. I might be washing off some dirt, but I'm clean. I'm renewed, redipped, rededicated, baby. I sit in a gratitude meeting and now today, to make all you newcomers vomit, I'm a grateful alcoholic and a grateful member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Most of the time I can take the acceptance one, but sometimes I still can't. I feel like my innocence has been given to me, restored if you must, and probably raised to a better level because I am such a little kid. If any of you are on my Facebook or any of my stuff, you'll see me doing just crazy kid stuff. I do faces in the mirror, laugh at myself. I play with my dogs and I'm silly. My license plate says yay. And I swing on the swings at the playgrounds when they don't have the dang tapes put around them from COVID. and I go outside and I can hear those birds singing and I love it. And I can see the butterflies. And I get to help these precious women that God has given to me. And I respect myself today. And let me tell you, the last 3 men, I'm dating someone right now. I dated a man for a few months, beautiful man in the program. He had to move out of state and I wasn't moving. Anyway, it was just, he moved away. I dated another beautiful man in the program and it didn't work out for us, but it wasn't because he was a narcissist or an abuser. It just didn't work out. We're still friends. He's a beautiful, beautiful, amazing man. And today I'm dating a man that is a beautiful man. And I don't know what's going to happen. I'm really enjoying myself. He is too. And There have been no red flags. There have been no red flags for him or for me. And we're doing great. And, today I know that I'm worthy of respect and love because I'm a woman of dignity and grace and playfulness and fun and excitement. And I love Alcoholics Anonymous more than anything. And let me tell you something. The only thing, I've been given a lot of gifts. You have given me my voice. You've given me beautiful miracles in this life. You've given me beautiful miracles in this life, but the greatest miracle you've given me is 5/9 of 97. That is my date. I own that date. God gave me that date. Voice or no voice, man or no man, career or no career, Billboard awards, no billboard, whatever it is, health or no health, that my greatest desire, and if I can do this, it will be the best thing I've ever done, is to die with that sobriety date, being a member in good standing in the middle of the herd of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I thank you for my life, my sanity, my joy, my peace, my unshakable foundation. And I love you so much.
My brother Rico Cruz, come on up, please.
Thank you, Mr. Ali. Good evening, family and friends. Welcome, newcomers. My name is Rico Cruz, and I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic.
Here we go.
Wow, really grateful to be here tonight. Thank you so much, Hilary, especially for your, not just your story, but your transparency, your honesty, the ability to get emotionally and spiritually naked in front of God and everybody. And the one thing I love about people in the God is you see the joy. You see the joy in their life, you see the joy in their eyes, and you are like a poster child for the joy of God. I'm a no God guy. I came here with no God. And when you guys brought God to me, I was like, miss me with that. And today, the most important thing in my life, besides Ali, is how God works in our lives. And it's just, man, you just emulated that so eloquently and beautifully, and you could see it. I could feel the joy, and I'm on a screen. God knows how far away from you. I could feel the joy, and what a story, a demonstration of God's love in Alcoholics Anonymous. And thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Thank you, Rico.
Besides Ali, wait a minute, what's happening here?
Teresa, now it's Q&A for Hilary. Love you, Rico. Hey, check this out. This is going to be in the recording. My wife just came all the way down just to tell me she was amazing. I'm like, I know she was. All right. Ed from LA, come on up, please.
Oh, did you just call on me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Hilary. Thank you so much for a powerful and moving and inspiring share. The troubles you went through, the things you went through, and discovering God's help in your life, given your experience, that's really inspiring. And where I related most was you as an actor. I've been nothing but an actor for 50 years. And I know the feeling of, I want to be someone else, anyone else. It's easier to be someone else. My least favorite thing was to be told by my agent, you have a general interview, just go in and be yourself. Be myself, oh no. Give me some sides, give me something to memorize, and let me be a character. That I can do, but be myself, I don't even know what that is. I know we're told to be to thine own self be true. But the first part of that is know thyself, and to thine own self be true. And I'm still working on the know thyself part. And I feel like a newcomer. I have 6.5 years. Congratulations on 23.5, by the way. That's wonderful. And thank you for enlightening me about the ego and troubles, of an actor. I relate. My ego is like an amoeba. It's got a lot of bravado and conceit, but it also has a lot of insecurity and fear. We're kind of messy ego-wise. And so it's hard for us to not edge God out. So anyway, thank you for letting me share. That's enough, Adam.
Thank you, Ed. Mr. Johnny Mack, come on up, please.
Thank you, Ali. And thank you, Ali, and for Teresa for getting Hilary here. Hilary, you're amazing. I heard you about 9 years ago when I first came in, and it blew me away. And I couldn't, and I was always thinking about this girl who was a singer, and I could never place it together because I'm also a singer who lost various record deals due to my disease. And I messaged Ali today and I said, is that the girl that spoke at the ORC? And he's like, I think so. I said, I'm going to be there. So I'm not going to take up a lot of time because there's lots of people here. I just want to thank you so much. And if it's possible, I can get your number through Ali. That would be fantastic. I would love to have you speak at my home group.
Love it. I'm going to put my number in the chat at the end of the discussion time.
Okay. Thank you so
For
much.
all the new people and all the women and anybody that needs that, that's great. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
you
you
so much.
Thank you, Mr. Johnny Mack. Questions are encouraged. Please make use of this time. Tara M. from Toronto, come on up, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm an alcoholic member of the Hill. My name's Tara, and I am almost in tears. Hi, Ali. You spoke in my home group once. I met you there. Hilary, thank you so much for your share. I had 22 months sober, and I relapsed Sunday night, and I hate myself right now. I'm full of shame. I've been in bed for a day and a half, and it's funny because I came on the meeting a few minutes late because I was sleeping. And you were talking about showering, and that's like such a simple thing, but I'm struggling to like even take a shower right now. It's really difficult with the way I'm feeling, and the reason I'm not on video is because I look nothing like my picture. And just a lot of things with COVID were getting to me. I'm full-time in school, and then a family member that's really important to me said some things to me like they would say to the old me, and that just got to me, and I went out. And but yeah, I'm just dealing with the fact that I just hate myself right now, and I don't know what to do, but I don't want to continue doing what I was doing, and I'm back, and I'm on step one, and I'm here. Thank you.
Hilary, please feel free to comment
I
at any
can't.
time
Okay,
as
I
well.
didn't know.
Yeah, of course
I
you
am
can.
so
This is your
glad you're back. I
Q&A.
know that shame all too well. I did it too at almost 2 years and almost 3 years. So get lots of women's numbers and pick up that phone and have somebody talk you into the shower and clean off, put the lotion on, you know, and give yourself a hug from me. Okay.
Tara, we love you. Thank you for being here. Rivka, come on up, please.
Hi, I'm Rivka. I'm a grateful alcoholic. Hilary, thank you so much for your lead, and thank you everyone who's of service. Highly recommend for anyone who is having trouble showering, also getting a dry brush. It's revolutionized my recovery and my self-love action. I just have a question. What would you say to a sponsee who is having trouble forgiving, or like you said, letting people off the hook?
Okay. So there's a story. Well, it depends what it is. Are we talking trauma, or are we talking something, a resentment? Trauma. Okay. For trauma.
For sure. Yeah. Like abuse and trauma.
Okay. For abuse and trauma, my prayer started out, may they get what they deserve. That's how it started. And then the other thing I really recommend is to get outside help. I really recommend that. And I love the Meadows. They can let you know, the Meadows is a great facility that has weekly, and I hope I can say that on this meeting, I don't know, but they have weekly things, but sometimes people need more than that. And I recommend getting, there's also there's also where they have scale pay for therapy. I believe that people that have trauma need to get outside help, and that it's so important to start praying for them. And you got to face the anger, you got to face the fire, you got to you got to go back, you relive it anyway. You may as well go to the pain to go toward the solution instead of staying in the pain of the hell of it. And once you start walking through that pain and getting through those things that the professionals know what to do, then you can start getting freedom. And I have a foundation that has a lot of education, and it's called Red Songbird Foundation, and it's redsongbird.org. And so if you go on there, there's a lot of valuable tools there, and it's to help people like us.
Thank you, Rivka. Sandy B, come on up, please.
Hello, hi, thank you so much, Hilary. I feel like we're practically family because my sponsor is sponsored by your sponsor. So I think that kind of makes us sisters or cousins or something.
I'm your auntie.
Such a small world. Thank you so much. Beautiful message from your heart. Oh my gosh, it was received by the heart. So thank you. I wanted to ask you, how long did it take you to get from writing at the top of your letter, you know, God, your SOB, calling God the SOB, to getting to where you could actually connect in a more loving way? What was the time frame, do you think?
Well, it was in the time frame of doing the steps, so it was a matter of months. My sponsor forced me to write some of those prayers. I was writing God before I wanted to, but I wrote it just because she told me to, but I didn't like it. But it was more in my journal and how it transformed that way, and how I remember, like, once I got to the third step, I'm like, dear blank, because she said, as you write out the concept, she told me to write, dear God, I pray that I receive all these gifts from you during, in this process. She'd have me always write these prayers, but in my journals, I was writing dear blank, like that's all for personally that I could do. But I should say it was just a series of months for me. The Heavenly Father came later. HP was there for a long time. And then God came more later in the 9th step. And then the Heavenly Father came more as I did the 11th step. So it wasn't like, oh, okay, this date and then this, it was a process. Yeah. And so the other thing that happened at 14 years is I had a burning bush experience when I had heart surgery in the hospital. And that's a whole nother story, but I can talk about that at another time. But I did have a burning bush that I haven't had since, and I didn't have before, but it was a beautiful miracle.
Thank you, Sandy. Tanya T, come on up, please.
Hi, I'm Tanya. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Hilary.
Thanks
so much for your honesty about your higher power. That has been, I'm a retread. I have 10 months now. I used to have 23 years. And I fought that whole time with the God concept. I would say anything other than what they were saying in prayers at meetings. And something my ex-husband used to say, God doesn't have genitals. So the whole he or she doesn't matter, and that was something that really got me. And you just shared a little bit about how you got through that. I know one of my biggest problems with identifying God as a male is I have to reach way back to my grandfather to find a male that I feel suitable to call, to have father-like distinctions for me because of abuse and trauma. And I wanted to know how you deal with that.
So that is thank you for sharing that with us. And I can say that he she stuff, I couldn't I had to learn that the father that I was raised with, that I couldn't, that was my higher power for a while. Well, for kids, their parents are their higher powers. And when it's so twisted and all these weird things happen, it becomes convoluted. And for me, it was a process, for me, God, over time became safer and safer for me. And for people like us that were not safe, had people manipulate, had people do things. And for me, I've had beautiful, safe examples of men in the program that have stood in the gap. These men that have never tried anything with me, just tried to be helpful. Or these married couples that have these beautiful examples. And that's helped me with the man stuff. When I was in that treatment facility, I hated men for a long time. And when I was in the treatment facility, they put me in a group with men that would go to those clubs or saw women of the night. And I'm like, why am I in this room with them? And what happened is they wrote all these letters about the abuse they endured, like they were either raped by a man or abused by a woman, and they were trying to prove their manhood, and they would act out in all these twisted ways. And I realized, oh my gosh, we're both broken little children. We're both hurt, acting out our crazies. And it made me see everything differently. And yeah, it's been a process, and I had to see some safe people, but I had to start writing down the miracles. And I'm also going to be putting my number. We can talk more about this. I'm going to put my number at the end of when they close out this section this time. I'm going to put my number, and any ladies can call me. So I hope that helped. But if not, you can call me, girl.
Thank you, Tanya. Good to see you here. Miss Daryl G, come on up, please.
My name is Daryl, and I'm a real alcoholic. Thank you, Hilary.
Hi,
It is good to see you. Good to hear you again. I'm grateful to be alive and sober. If you're new or relatively new to Zoom or new again, especially Tara, you touched my heart. I want to personally welcome you here and share with you and let you know that you just made the greatest step that you will ever make from the cradle to the grave, because you are able to get in here in front of a bunch of folks you don't know and identify and share your hurt and your pain. And I identified with that. So I appreciate you and I bless you. And I encourage you to stay here with us and get some phone numbers in the chat. And Hilary, I just have a question about, you talked about that sense of belonging. I remembered mine because you made me remember it. Do you remember the first time you felt like this was home?
Yes. It was when I really felt like I was in the middle of the deal, and I don't want to scare new people. It just took me a while, but I was still acting out in some crazy ways. It was after I went to trauma treatment, about a year and a half after that. And I had to, Polly's love, within a few months, I was able to walk away from some other crazy behaviors. And I remember when I just sat in a meeting one day out of nowhere, and I just went, and I just felt like I was a person among persons, and I felt like I belonged, and that I earned this seat, that I deserved this seat, and nobody could take it from me, and I was right where I belonged. But I had moments of peace. I had moments of laughing from my God. God will give you little things that he'll throw it at you, give you glimpses, and then more and more and more and more and more. Yeah, but that totally.
Thank you, Daryl.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I thought you were done. My bad.
No. That total belonging, sitting in a meeting, not worried about what I'm looking like, not what they're thinking, just really calm. Bam. Yeah.
Thank you,
That's it.
Daryl. Thank you, Hilary. Leo, come on up, please.
Oh, yay, I get to talk. Okay, yeah, okay. That would be awkward if I was still muted and I was just talking. Anyway, so I really didn't want to go to this meeting tonight. And I'm Leo. I'm an alcoholic and I'm 12 days sober. So I really didn't want to go to this meeting because I already went to one today, but something was like, no, like, Leo, you have to go to this one. And I'm glad that I went because I relate a lot to, and I cried in this one, which I don't like crying, but I did. And I related a lot to just like always feeling dirty. I used to be a dancer, and that took me down a very bad path. So I thought, I just was like, oh yes, finally someone who can like, who understands this, and like there's no judgment. So thank you for just like saying it. And then that gives me the courage of being like, yes, I don't know if I will go back because I'm currently in the hospital, but just thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Leo. I'm so glad you're here. Get lots of numbers. Get connected with us. The steps. We is the first word. So we go from being just me to we, and that's what we start doing, is making those calls.
Thank you, Leo. We love you. Glad you're here. Kimia, come on up, please.
Yes, thank you. And Hilary, what a beautiful share. You have touched a lot of hearts tonight, and I'm so grateful and so humbled to have been here for it. At 291 people in one group, what a blessing and what a privilege to be able to have this platform. You brought a message of hope, definitely to a lot of hearts, including mine, and you took me down memory lane. And I have to recognize this as a privilege today, having been in the rooms of recovery before COVID and having had that experience of coming in and out of the rooms, of the not belonging, and the silence and the resentment and the shame and the appearance of doing okay that comes with that. I want to speak, and I love that you spoke to meeting God alone, whatever that incremental change might be. I find a lot of miracles today in my recovery in that sense. There's a sense of stillness to the way God shows up. There's a sense of belonging in stripping away the layers that didn't belong at one point and getting to the core, which you alluded to as returning to a self, a better self that is the divine within. I want you to speak to our newcomers today who have not had the experience of the rooms, and they have come into recovery in a Zoom arena that is just Zoom land. It could just be a random link that they, click onto and they're here. What is your newcomer message? What is the one signifying thing that still keeps you going and allows you to have a beginner mindset on a daily basis? What are some of the spiritual regimented things that you had to institute in your life to actually see the long-term prospects of doing the steps and living in the message of this book? Thank you.
Committed meetings every week. I'm at committed meetings. I have commitments in meetings. I call my sponsor a lot. I talk to my sponsees a lot, but for new people, you call your sponsor. I talk to at least 3 women a day still. I get on my knees and I ask God to keep me sober. And I ask God, and I thank God at night. I'm in my book. Every morning I get up and I have my little meditations that I read every day. Most every day I write a gratitude list. If I'm hurting, I come to the meetings and I make calls, but I also come to the meetings and I don't pretend. I save my butt, not my face, no matter what, because I don't want to lose the time that I have. And I just stay in the middle of the herd. I stay in the middle of the herd and doing the same things that were taught to me in the beginning. And that's what I do. I hope that helped.
Thank you, Kimia, for being here. Hilary, I've sent you a question, a big ask in text. I sent it to you in text. One, to not put you on the spot and not to embarrass me. So just take a look at it and consider.
Oh wait,
thank you.
Is it back a bit? Uh-oh.
No, in text,
on my
not
phone?
in your phone.
Sorry.
Yeah. All right, that's okay. Yasmin, come on up, please.
Oh yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah? Woo! You guys are gonna love it. All right, Yasmin, come on up, please.
I know what it is.
Yasmin, can't unmute. Oh.
Yasmin, I've asked you to unmute. You can do it.
Thank
There you go. You're good. Come on.
Thank you so much. Hi. Thank you for letting me speak. Beautiful message, Hilary. My mother lives in Texas, and I just related to so much of everything you said. I lost my voice to shame. The Meadows indirectly led me to this spiritual program of action. And my mother went missing last week. And I don't know, I've just had such an incredible experience so far. My question for you is, you know, in this spiritual program of action, I hear a lot like progress, not perfection. And I know you mentioned like you had some slips early in sobriety, and that's what I'm dealing with too. It's like I still have thoughts. I'm still having like some struggles when fear comes up. How do you relate to your sponsees so that they don't think of you as, you know, this higher power that has to be perfect? And oh, if my sponsor is starting to have these thoughts, or my sponsor, wow, my sponsor's doing this or that, like maybe I need a different sponsor. How do you kind of approach that mindset that newcomers might fall into, of my sponsor has to be perfect in order to be able to help me, versus my sponsor is my equal, we're just guiding each other along this path, and we're both just working this program every day?
Well, the example of being a perfect sponsor, nobody can ever find that. And that is if they're looking for a sponsor to be perfect, then that is what they're expecting of themselves. That's of you. And the thing is that what I do is I'm always transparent. I was very sad when I broke up with that last guy this past summer. And I was on my sponsee meeting and I was crying. We were going through the meeting and my girls were like, "Oh, I can't believe you're on here. You're hurting so much." And I just cried through it. And we did exactly what we do in our meeting. I am transparent today. I share my struggles. I don't try to pretend like I'm perfect, because that about killed me. That about killed me. That's the thing about this program. I will never rise above being human. I will never rise above being human. And I couldn't love me for so long, and I wanted me to be this perfect thing and do the perfect program and do. I can't. I have to show my humanness to give them permission to show their humanness. And the other thing I do about sponsorship, it's not an ego thing for me. You know, I get close to my girls, and there's a couple times that I've had, you know, that I don't have girls that I sponsor, and I've been sad, but it's again up to God. It's not me. I'm here to help them. But when I went through those couple of abusive relationships, I have one of my girls, I think at least one of my girls is on here. I've been sponsoring for 6 years. And I'm telling you, how she stayed, there were 3 of them that stayed with me. I don't know how they did, but they couldn't stand either one of them. And they were like, "We can't stand them. They're so bad for you." But they didn't leave, because I told them, but they're thrilled with who I am today. They're so happy. I'm so happy. Yeah.
Thank you, Yasmin. 2 more hands up, please. No more hands up. There's a beautiful surprise at the end. Giselle, come on up, please.
Hi, Giselle, alcoholic and addict.
Hi.
Hilary, hi, thank you so much. It was so incredible to hear you. Yeah, I guess like my question, or just like if you could elaborate more. I mean, I'm just, me personally, like being a year and like 10 months sober, you know, I'm kind of hitting this place where like I'm trying to like have a bigger God, you know, a bigger higher power. Like there's so much going on in the world, so much going on personally, that I feel like I just need a higher power that's bigger than it all. And so I was just wondering, like, if you can elaborate like on your own 11-step practice, if there's like mini meditations that you do, like take a walk or something, or what you do when like the resistance to meditate comes up. And
So a lot of the things I learned, and it's been a process, but a lot of the things that help me, and this is going to, you know, I don't always say these things, but since you're asking the question, I do breathing techniques, and where I take in breath for so many seconds, I hold it for so many seconds, I breathe in for 4, hold it for 7, release it for 4. And I'll do that over and over, and it gets all the oxygen in there. I use essential oils to ground me. I also Sometimes I've gone outside and stood in the grass just to get grounded. There have been times I've jumped in the shower just to wash the stress off. Not the dirt, but the stress. And I'll just imagine, and there's times I'll write and I'll get stuff out like that. Sometimes I got to call people, and, if I'm, when I've gone through deaths of people dying, I got to call people and grieve with them. And it's just, and it's about that self-care, that self-love. And I've also, another thing I did from the trauma stuff is I had to really go, and this is going to sound silly to new people too, but I'm really a big believer on inner child work. I have pictures of my little kids around, and I give them lots of love. Pictures of me at different ages of abuse and stuff, and neglect. And that's a big thing I do. So, but yeah.
Thank you, Giselle, for your question. And
hot baths too. Hot baths are good.
For everybody.
That's right.
Colin.
Hello, Colin, alcoholic.
Hi, Colin.
And hiya. And thank you, Hilary, for your integrity. I just wanted to ask you a question about your step 11 practice. And as you go through the day, how do you recognize God's will?
Well, God's will is in different ways. If I'm feeling like I'm having to lie or cover up or keep something, anything like that, that is not God's will for me. I know God's will is for me to be able to be transparent. I know God's will for me is God doesn't want me being cruel to myself. And my gut usually tells me when things are getting like, and God's will is also, I have to there are times with different things that I've struggled with. I know God's will is not for me to be with an abusive guy that calls me names and puts his hands on me and makes me feel like horrible. I know that God's will is, I think God wants me to not take things so dang seriously, and he wants me to have a good time. If I had I'm hopefully going to have some kids. I pray to God for that. But I know that I think God just wants me to be a happy little camper, and then he wants me to connect with people. God doesn't want me to be alone. God wants me to be of service. God wants me to give back to this program. I mean, that's kind of, God is good, orderly direction for me. And my gut, the longer I stay sober, the more I learn what does and doesn't work for me. And it's just been this learning process. In the beginning, it was okay for me to work in strip clubs and just barely, and just not drink no matter what. Today, you couldn't give me enough money to put myself on a stage. I'd rather clean toilets for the rest of my life. More will be revealed. Did that help, my friend?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Colin. And before I hand it over to my co-host Teresa, I'm going to ask what I asked Hilary in text. Would you mind kindly, however long the Spirit moves you, give us a few minutes of Amazing Grace to close us out?
Okay. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, oh, but now I see. Through many dangers and snares. I have already come. 'Twas grace hath brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home.